passion and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Finebaum Show, Hour 2 podcast.
This might be college football heaven.
We're back. Second hour is live. We appreciate you being here on this Thursday afternoon. There's a big event going on right now or in a few hours in Hot Springs, Arkansas. There you go. SEC lands 2 assistants on the list of the Broyles Award. It's the most prestigious award in the land for an assistant coach. Those are some of the former winners. A couple of SEC coaches nominated, 2 DCs. And David Bazzel, our good friend from Arkansas, is the brains behind this operation, and put me down for the Daily Double on the number 6 horse. And David's joining us from Oaklawn, which is one of the most famous tracks in America. As a young kid, my parents took me to Hot Springs on vacation. I've not been invited back since. Maybe one day Baz will have me out there. David, good afternoon, and tell us all about this event that you have played a monumental role in putting on.
Yeah, Paul, appreciate you having us on. This is hard to believe, the 29th year of the Frank Broyles Award that goes to the top assistant coach in America. And for the last 28 years, we've been in Little Rock, as you may know, and we've done it really when all the other awards are held, the week of the Heisman Trophy and the ESPN Home Depot College Football Awards. But with the extended college playoff, we felt to only be fair to give a full slate of work for these assistants that are nominated for our selection committee. We wanted to go past the 12-team playoff and vote the winners and bring in the finalists here to Oaklawn in February. And if you know the history of Oaklawn, this place is amazing. You know, Babe Ruth, spring ball used to be played here, Paul. This track is 120 years old. Smarty Jones, American Pharaoh, Triple Crown winner, Mystic Dan last year won the Kentucky Derby, is here. And so Oaklawn said, hey, listen, since you're moving this thing to February, let's go to Oaklawn. Let's go to Hot Springs with all the beautiful lakes and the springs and have it here. I got to tell you, all the finalists and their wives are very excited. World-class spa here, great lakes, great horse racing on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday and Monday. And then tonight we will actually announce the winner. We got 5 finalists. Marcus Arroyo from Arizona State did a great job there. You look at Brian Haynes at Indiana, defensive coordinator there. They had never won double digits in one season. They did that this year. You go to Pete Kwiatkowski at Texas, maybe one of the best defenses at Texas ever. Al Golden, Notre Dame. Obviously, he was the head coach at Miami at one point, goes and has really done a good job the last couple of years at Notre Dame. And Tim Banks at Tennessee, who, they've only had 3 losses, and all 3 of those were on the road. But 4 defensive coordinators, 1 offensive coordinator, all 5 of them are worthy of winning. And you think of some of the names that have come through here. Really impressed. As you mentioned, Steve Sarkisian, you saw on that list there. Kirby Smarts won this thing. You look at, some people don't know this, Paul, but Dan Quinn was a finalist here when he was a defensive coordinator for the Will Muschamp. And obviously you see what he did with Atlanta, went to the Super Bowl, and what he did with Washington. And Joe Brady, obviously the offensive coordinator with Josh Allen at Buffalo. It goes on and on. Monk at Baltimore, who's obviously the offensive coordinator for the Ravens, and Lamar Jackson. So a lot of guys have come through here, and this is, of course, in memory, Paul, of the great Frank Broyles, who was an amazing coach, won a national championship here. And we're also supporting a great cause, which is the Broyles Foundation, and all those folks out there who have relatives and family members and friends that are dealing with Alzheimer's. That was Coach Broyles' passion there before he died of Alzheimer's complications. And so we're raising money for a good cause tonight. A little nervous coming to Hot Springs, but we got a sold-out crowd, 800 plus, smashing the attendance record. It's going to be a fun night tonight.
And let me pause for just a second, because everybody of your generation, and obviously mine, a little bit older, knows the significance of the name Frank Broyles. How did it all come about, David, that he lent his name to this award and this cause?
Well, Paul, I played at Arkansas back in the early 80s under Lou Holtz and Ken Hatfield. And once I graduated, I was looking at things to do and ideas. And I started looking through the Arkansas Media Guide. And I'm from the state of Florida. I'm from Panama City. So I didn't really know the full history of Coach Broyles. And I started looking at all the assistants that he had. He had 27 assistants that became head coaches. And that included Jimmy Johnson, Joe Gibbs, Hayden Fry, Johnny Majors, Barry Switzer. I was like, there's nobody, they've won like altogether 5 or 6 Super Bowls, 40 conference championships, over 5 national championships. So I went to Coach Broyles and said, Coach, there's not an assistant coach of the year. Would you allow us to honor you and do this? And he said, oh, David, that would be great. The role of the assistant coach. And, back then, Paul, Mickey Andrews was the first winner back in 1996 for Florida State. You know how much he was making back then? He was making $150,000 a year. Listen, back then, Paul, when I started this thing, the assistants were making so little money, we were giving them golf clubs and a check for $5,000 and just trying to raise the bar. And Coach Broyles wanted, one of the things he always did, Paul, he did a good job. He really wanted to promote his assistants to become head coaches, and he did a good job, and he and Bear Bryant had a good relationship. And so that's how it started, and I had to think Coach Broyles would be really happy to see the development of this award 29 years later. Not everybody here, Phil Parker won this thing last year, Paul, at Iowa. Been around forever, never going to be a head coach, but what a great assistant coach. So he is. But we've had the Lane Kiffins, we've had, as I mentioned, the Kirby Smarts and the up-and-coming guys, and so Lincoln Rileys and those kind of guys. And so it's a lot of different assistants that are honored, but it's a great way to honor Coach Broyles' legacy.
Yeah, and better than anyone. I mean, it's a big deal when you win this as far as your resume and even to your agent. Back in the day, these guys did not have agents. Now they all do. How has it helped being a Broyles Award winner?
Yeah, Paul, it's I didn't realize when I first started this thing, I should have put in a little clause. If you win, we get a little kickback, because what's happened over the last 15 years. So most of the time, when you're a finalist, you're going to get a 6-figure raise, sometimes 7-figure. When you're winning, you're probably going to get a 7-figure raise. And more importantly, if you want to become a head coach, once this happens, you immediately go on the radar of athletic directors across the country. Whether you're a guy like Steve Sarkisian, who at the time was Alabama. For example, Marcus Arroyo, he's been a head coach before, but he's back as an assistant. So it certainly puts you back on the radar to become a head coach again. And plus, it really adds to the fact that you're probably going to get a big fat raise for being a finalist and especially being a winner.
David, before you go, let me get your thoughts on your team. You played and were captain of the Razorbacks. They were a really quiet team last year. A couple of impressive wins, but it seems like they're closing in on breaking through. What's going on with the Hogs?
Well, Paul, this day and age of NIL and transfer portal, 40 new teams. I ran into Bobby Petrino the other day, and he was just saying, we welcome 40 new players to campus, and that's a challenge, and it's a challenge competing with, some of the older blue bloods that have 20+ million a year in NIL money, and it's a challenge. And so, I don't know, Paul. Sam Pittman is beloved in this state, and people love him, the kind of person he is. But they also expect him to win, and so there are going to be expectations. It was nice to end the season on a bowl win at the Liberty Bowl, but we'll see. At least we've got the same quarterback coming back, but a lot of new pieces on all sides of the ball. So right now, Paul, listen, we're focused on Calipari and this basketball team coming back. Baseball top 5, softball top 10. Hey, so we're not ready to go football yet, Paul. We cover other sports too, just letting you know.
Yeah, you do cover other sports, but I've spent a little bit of time in that state, and one sport matters more than any other.
That's true. That is true, yes.
David, congratulations. This event is so revered around the country. Everybody knows about it, and we are really delighted to have you join us from Oaklawn today, and have a great time tonight.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you as always.
You bet. David Bazzel, one of the all-timers with the Broyles Award. We'll take a short break. We're coming right back.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
We are back, and I continue to laugh every time he talks about that red mustache. Classic. Judge Chris is up next.
Good afternoon, Mr. Finebaum. How do you spell Finebaum?
Finebaumb.
B-O-M-B. Okay. Because I'm I'm gonna get the papers in you to the mail today. But do you and the good doctor have one of those Roombas?
I don't think we do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they go all. I think they're. I might name mine Commissioner Sankey, because I think he's going all over the place, getting the SEC in position to have about 5 guaranteed playoff spots in the.
Judge, I'm glad you brought that up. I was talking to a friend of mine in your league today, and I don't really. They're meeting next week with the Big Ten, and they're going to push automatic bids, which I don't really like. I don't know about you. I think they're wrong, but that is clearly the path the SEC and the Big Ten are on right now.
Well, they're in a position to money controls, so they're in a position to control that. But different years you might have a strong league one year and not as strong the next year. You would think ESPN and everybody else would want the best 12 teams. That's
what I think we should get. We are in agreement.
I agree with that. But hey, I'll be getting those papers to you. I'm gonna put them in the mail today.
Well, I can't wait. Even though I've already put a change of address in. Mike is up next. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Paul. Paul, about 1969 or 70, I can remember going with my dad and brother from Birmingham to Tuscaloosa to see Pete Maravich play. Price of the ticket was a little higher than in previous years, but we agreed that brand new Coliseum plus to see Pete Maravich was worth the price of the ticket. And I'm telling you, it was as advertised. He went behind the back, through the legs. You couldn't cover him. And when they doubled up on him, he always hit the open man. But he scored 69 points that day, which held as an NCAA record for over 50 years. But Caitlin Clark, I understand, has just broken it. But, Paul, I was wondering how many points did Caitlin Clark score other than Pete Maravich's 69 to break that record?
I don't know.
And that's one. And, Paul, I got a couple more. One, you said you're an hourly worker over there for ESPN, Paul. Thumbs up or down, $1,000 an hour? And then my other question was about the Calamity putter and why it's worth $1 million. But I guess collector's value, Paul. And anyway, I wanted you to know that I used to wait on you over at Charlemagne Records in Birmingham.
Oh, really?
I was the guy that sat at the top of the steps over there from about 1982 through 2002.
Now, was that the one? Mike, was that the one in Homewood?
In Southside, Paul.
Oh, Southside.
Right across the street from the fountain.
Oh, okay. I do remember that one now. There was one in Homewood and one in Southside. Man, do I miss those records?
Yes,
sir. I know record stores are making a comeback. I was in one during Christmas, but I don't know if I ever bought a record, but I used to love to look at them.
I remember you were in there, and I've seen you before, and you were always dressed like a lawyer, man, real good, and we're proud of you here in Birmingham. And so I live in Pelham now, and wanted to let you know that watch every day, and roll Tide, brother.
Well, Mike, really great to hear from you. Thank you very much. Remember those record stores? Yeah. I would always like to read the jackets. Kind of a lost art, isn't it? Reading a record jacket. I learned so much about the musicians, the songs. Now, you have no idea. What a shame, man. Good old days, huh, Randy? Yeah. Good old days when we were all hanging out at Charlemagne Records. Spinning some vinyl. Yeah. Hoping they give me a discount. Tommy is up next in Nashville.
Hey, Paul. I've got a question in regards to the SEC basketball. Me and my buddies have been debating this topic for a while now. What do you think? I have my own opinion, but I want your opinion. What do you think is harder to win? Or what is remembered more, winning the regular season or winning the SEC tournament?
Yeah, but that's a tough question because the regular season is important, but the tournament gets you the automatic bid. So I think. But
if you're good enough, I'm looking at this from Auburn, Alabama perspective. Yeah. Like, what will be remembered 10 years from now more, the tournament or the season?
I think the season.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm glad
I
you
mean, the
said
tournament is so fluky, and it's important, and you cut the nets down. But having covered basketball so many years, here's what I always my beef with the SEC tournament. It used to be on a Sunday. Now I think it still ends on a Sunday. Here's the problem with ending on a Sunday. Do you know what it is? I was a newspaper columnist, so
having to go back and play on.
Well, no. What
4
happened?
days later.
Okay, so the SEC used to end about the tournament used to end about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I can't tell you how many times I was back in the old days. I'd be typing away on my computer, and then what happens at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever time it is? It's the field the field is released, the NCAA field, and that immediately overshadows the entire tournament. Like by Monday morning, what are people talking about? Who won the SEC tournament the day before, or where you're seated and where you are going, and who do you have in the first round?
That's right.
So it always.
That's right.
I mean, that's why I think the ACC playing on Saturday is smart, because you at least have a chance to celebrate. Where with the SEC ending on Sunday afternoon, you're immediately flying home as fast as you can, and then sit by the TV. And the second you get the seed, you're scouting the team, and the win is somewhat overshadowed. That's why I think regular season matters more.
And it's a lot harder, right? To win
I
over
think so.
3
Yeah,
month period versus 3 days.
I mean, listen, the SEC tournament this year, it will be the most anticipated ever, but the winner, Auburn won last year. It didn't help them one bit once they got to the NCAA tournament.
That's right. All right. Well, I appreciate your thoughts on that.
The one thing the SEC basketball tournament does, and we've been there countless years, it gives it a lot of, not this year, but in some years the casual fan starts paying more attention because Wednesday the games are on all day, Thursday. So it becomes, you get into tournament mode, and for the next 4 weeks, that's where you are. Thank you for the call. Jim in New York is up next. Hey, Jim.
Hi, Paul. I just wanted to say I listen to you, probably 2 or 3 times a week, and
Thank you.
you're very you do a hell of a job.
That means a great deal. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I'm not a big SEC fan, but they can play. They can definitely play football, and this year they're basketball players too. So, yeah. I live up here by where Ernie Davis went to high school.
Oh, my goodness. That's great. Well, thank you so much for calling, Jim. You take care of yourself, and take care. We're up against the break right now. We have a guest standing by, Dennis Dodd, the great reporter and columnist for CBS Sports. He'll join us next.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
And we are delighted to say hello to Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports, who has written a couple of interesting articles, one about the coaching carousel. But have you seen this headline before? I haven't. There will be a college sports CEO who they are and how to execute an impossible task up in the air. Dennis, thank you. So sport obviously needs it. You've heard this conversation for years, but you seem to be talking to people who think we are getting close. Hey there, and tell us all about it.
Yeah, Paul, thanks for having me on. Yeah, the CEO thing was baked into the House settlement when it was agreed upon that there would be a CEO to have oversight over this $20.5 million, maybe an executive board underneath him or her. But it would be hired, as we've now known, I think Ross Dellinger reported last week, it's going to be hired by the Power Four and the Power Four commissioners. And, basically to oversee them, which is kind of odd, brother judging brother. And what are they going to look at? They're going to police people that go over the $20.5 million, the fair market value. What is an athlete worth? Where did you get that car? That type of thing that the NCAA does, but is not going to do in this case. So it's really different. I don't know how it can't end badly, but what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you've written about it. We've all talked about college sports needs a commissioner, a czar, and the name that always comes up is the same one, Nick Saban. Could that happen here?
I would advocate for him. I don't think he'll do it. I will speak for Nick here. I don't think he wants the aggravation. In fact, I think that's why he got out of coaching as part of what we're talking about. But number one, he's knowledgeable. I think we've seen that from game day, week after week. He wasn't, buried in game plans. We saw him commenting on the game every week. Number two, he's respected. Number three, he has experience. And I think a guy who's died in the wool SEC guy, I don't think it would matter because he knows the profession. He knows the issues right now. I think a big problem with hiring this person going forward is start with this. Where did they go to school? Doesn't that where every argument that you have, your fans have, your callers have, where did they go to school? It largely doesn't matter, but people are going to ask. You start with that. What kind of job do they do? Are they in college athletics? I had one former NCAA investigator talking about the job itself. He said, if you aren't, if you don't have knowledge of football, basketball, legal matters, you're not speaking the same language as what this job entails. I don't know who that person is. Paul, the best comp I can give, and I didn't put it in the story, I think is a guy like Charlie Baker, who was going out of office as governor of Massachusetts, Republican, who had drawn both sides of the aisle together, highly successful, well-respected, and wanted something to do. If that person is out there, maybe it'll be that. But I don't think they can hire, I don't know, a Greg Sankey. Greg Sankey's the most powerful person in the room in college athletics. I don't think he wants it, and I don't think because of who he works for would be the ideal candidate.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not the same thing, but we saw a year ago the race to be the CFP executive director, and they landed on a retired Air Force general who seemed fairly neutral to everyone. Now, that job is not as powerful as this job, I don't think. But beyond Saban, and I mean, if the person isn't a person of great respect and repute, then does it really matter who it is?
Yeah, that's the other question is how much real power is this person going to have? Is it going to be a figurehead? Rich Clark, who's great or has been great as the executive director of the CFP, again, serves at the will of those 10 commissioners in Notre Dame. This person's going to do the same, except it's going to be the Power Four commissioners. And as I said in the story, don't be surprised if this board underneath that person is weighted, quote unquote, to the SEC and Big Ten. And why shouldn't it? Because as we've learned, they are the stakeholders. They bring, most of the value to the game. And especially in this case, Paul, those 34 schools, those 34 schools at the top, SEC and Big Ten, I would bet that all 34 don't know for sure or are going to fully fund and opt in on house, $20.5 million. The schools below them, the other, 7 conferences now, I would say less than half and significantly less than half are going to have the financial will to do that. So they should be guiding this thing forward. It's just a question of what it's going to look like.
Dennis Dodd with us. Let me switch over to something else you reported on, and that's the coaching carousel. It was not the most dramatic, although it had one of the most dramatic hires in recent college football history by UNC grabbing Bill Belichick. Rich Rodriguez returns to a place that once ended up in a backyard brawl. There are some of the top names and their grades: Rodriguez, Odom, Belichick, Scott Frost. I mean, the fact that he's back at UCF and is really remarkable considering what a great job he did there and what a difficult job he's had ever since. So tell us about, let's start with Rodriguez. That's certainly another one of those strange circular moves from a guy that was in the wilderness and now is back on Broadway, so to speak.
Yeah, Paul, you remember the bitterness in 2007 when he came very close to taking the Alabama job and then got sideways with the administration over, I think back then it was facilities that they didn't come through with, and it ended up leaving and going to Michigan and how bad that was. And they hired Bill Stewart, who kept it going for a while, but it's never been the same. West Virginia has never been the same. And I give Rich Rodriguez credit because he really is one of the godfathers of modern offensive football, NFL and college. He started one of the zone read spread things. He was one of the beginning guys on that, and brought West Virginia to heights it had never seen before. Within all they had to do was beat a very mediocre Pittsburgh team in 2007 to play for the national championship. And one of the great upsets of the BCS era since 1998, Pittsburgh upset them 13-9. And Rich Rodriguez was never the same again. The program wasn't the same again, but times changed, things changed. I think he's had 5 different jobs since then. Obviously went to Arizona, was at Jacksonville State, had some assistant coaching gigs. The Michigan thing didn't work out, but things came together. And I was surprised. He's only 61 years old after all this, after what he's done at Clemson, at Tulane. I mentioned obviously West Virginia, and now he can start over at a place, at a conference that he can win, that he can get into the playoff with. And I don't think, judging from what he's done at Jacksonville State, that he's lost much of his fastball. We'll see.
Made a couple of pretty good hires too. He brought Zach Alley, who was with him at Jacksonville, and he was out in Norman. One more name I want to get your thoughts on. It's the biggest name of them all, and that's Bill Belichick. He's got Mike Lombardi, but he's on page 6. But what do you make out of the impact so far, and what do you expect?
This is going to be fascinating. Bill Belichick is the new Deion was in 2023, where Deion hijacked the game in September of 2023 in terms of attention, and really throughout the season, and did even better last year. This is Bill Belichick, completely different person. Look, in one sense, I think that, if Deion did it, and Deion has turned around Colorado, Kurt Signetti did it in a season at Indiana. Obviously, Lane Kiffin has done it at Ole Miss in quick transfer portal turnarounds. If they can do it, certainly Bill Belichick can do it. But there's something in the back of my head, what his true intentions are here. Once I saw that June 1st buyout clause where it goes way, way down, it told me, number one, he's looking to get back into the NFL. And why wouldn't he? But so far, there have been no takers since he left the Patriots. And number two, the industry scuttlebutt is that he's going to try to get his son, Steve, no matter what happens, long-term, short-term, is the next coach of North Carolina. And North Carolina bought into all this. They go into this with their eyes wide open. They're a middle of the ACC program that needed to stay relevant. And this is about as big a move as they made. But there's something in the back of my mind that said this could be incredibly successful. It could also be a train wreck.
Train wreck in North Carolina wouldn't be the first time. David, I don't know what to make out of it. Dennis Dodd joining us, talking about Belichick and Rich Rodriguez and so many others. Dennis, great stuff. We really enjoyed being with you. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports, one of the longest running veterans in the game. We'll take a break here. Your phone calls straight ahead.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
So softball season has arrived, and how about this? Triple header. Got a game on Friday. That is at noon, San Diego State and Alabama, and then a double. I'll get this right eventually, Randy. Liberty and Missouri on Saturday morning, and then Charlotte A&M on Sunday morning. So 3 games. Preseason Invitational in Clearwater. We are back with your phone calls, and Jerry is up next. Hey, Jerry.
How you doing, pal?
We are doing great. Thank you.
Hey, I tell the man that I remember y'all way back in when you were digging people out of the golf course. But I got one question to ask you and one statement.
Yes, sir.
Is you going to retire?
Oh, am I fixing to retire?
Yeah, you coming back to Bama where you supposed to be.
Well,
and my statement is,
well, that's a good question, by the way. I am planning on that, but I'm not planning on retiring though, unless Randy, is there somebody at the door? Yeah,
no,
a
don't
couple
do
of guys
that.
in skinny ties at the door. What does that mean?
I don't know about that, but I'm the man that told you come get the barbecue. But tell them boys from Auburn Tigers to come on down to Tuscaloosa Saturday. We got something waiting for them down there, and it's called a butt kicking.
Hey, so Jerry, what's up with you these days?
Nothing, just sitting back watching you every day, pal. I've been watching you from all the way back time, like I said, when you were digging people out the golf course and Mike Shula and everything. And I was just wondering, they can't do the show like you do it, so what's it going to be called and you retire coming back to Belma?
You know, I don't know,
but
we are going to have to figure something out, though, Jerry.
Okay, all right, then. I appreciate it. But I tell you, you should be the commissioner. What you talking to that brother earlier about? You should be the commissioner of sports, Paul.
No.
You know all about that basketball, that football, baseball, all that stuff in the SEC. You should be the commissioner.
Here's the problem, though, Jerry. That's real work. What I'm doing here isn't.
Now you listen to people.
I just sit here every day and punch a few buttons. I mean, that means I'd actually have to sit in a room with a bunch of people and listen to them bellyache all day, and I don't think I could do that.
Oh, okay, then. I'll let you go on that one, then, Paul.
I'll see you back in town.
See if you retire, because I want the scoop. I want to be the first one on my podcast to say that Paul Finebaum told me that he's retiring, coming back to Alabama.
You call back tomorrow, and you may get the scoop.
All right, then, Paul. Y'all good evening.
Thank you very much. That wouldn't cause a stir, would it, Randy? I don't know. I mean, the only way I'll stop here is if they make me. How about that? And then that day, I just read a memo. I think that day has arrived. Let's talk to Matt up next. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? I got a message for Jerry. Jerry, you want us Tigers to come down to Bama? Well, we're coming. You're gonna get a butt whooping.
Ooh. A lot of promise of butt whippings here.
But Paul, what do you think about the Auburn-Alabama game? You think Auburn can beat Bama the way they played against Vanderbilt?
Oh, yeah. Listen, I mean, this game is – I mean, you got the two best teams in the country. I think Auburn is capable of beating anyone.
Well, like I said, Jerry wants us Tigers to come down to Tuscaloosa. We're coming down, but they're going to get a beating. But then Bama, Jerry, you Tigers come down to Auburn, you get another butt whooping.
I like that. Hey, thank you very much, Matt. A lot of butt whipping. I feel like we're back in high school. Everybody's threatening everyone. Ricky is up next in Tennessee.
Yes, sir, Paul. First-time caller and a long-time viewer.
Well, thank you very much.
A young man called in from Alabama and said his dad took him to go see Pistol Pete play and said he got his money's worth out of it. And then asked you about Caitlin Clark, how she beat him and everything, his record.
Right.
Well, she played over 4 years in college at the main level, and Pete, in that day, you could only freshmen couldn't play on the varsity, and he scored all of his points in 3 years, and she took over 4 to get hers. And that's all I was wanting to say, but a lot of you can
you're right. I mean, he,
Paul,
as a freshman, he averaged 43 a game. He later, I think his overall average was 44 at LSU during his 3 years. Can you imagine Pete Maravich having to play a freshman season?
Well, if you could have looked at it, there was no 3-point line either.
No.
And some of the shots he was hitting were.
He was definitely. He was definitely. I can't remember. Somebody did that once. Literally went through every game and came up with what his average would have been, and it was well over 50 points, maybe closer to 60.
I think it's, I think, in my opinion, I think that they should put an asterisk by Clark's record because of how many years she got to play. Maybe
listen, I don't.
Pete
I think she earned it. I don't think it really matters. But hey, thanks for the call anyway. Appreciate it. Frank is up next in Tennessee. Hello, Frank.
Hey.
Frank, good afternoon.
I've got a question. This Frank?
Yeah, Frank, you're on the air. Go right ahead.
Oh, hey, I caught the end of your Canadian call earlier, and it just made me think of, and this may be a stupid question, but if Canada does become a 51st state, does that add colleges? Do they have college football? Does that add things to the program, or what happens on that?
I'm not sure I've ever. I mean, they have the Canadian Football League, which is I have covered.
Yeah,
before,
and of course, I guess that's NFL. I don't guess they'd go together, but does it change anything at all?
I've never heard about college football in Canada. Do you know that?
Well, I'm assuming they have it.
I'm not assuming. I don't know. I mean, they got hockey. I didn't think they played anything other than hockey up there.
Well, they may not. I just was wondering
by the way,
about that.
If it's the 51st state, I mean, that's a big state.
That's true.
Canada's like bigger than some continents.
Well, that is true. But, and I didn't know if you could have the football with the XFL or what you could do.
Imagine, I mean, especially if Canada just had one team.
That's true. I've not looked into it. I have no idea if they have football up there. I mean, I know they got football, but I don't know if they have college football.
See if they have anything to say about that. Appreciate the call. We're up against the break. We're back after this.